Berthe Morisot was Impressionism's most inspired and prolific painter. She's the only female painter that was a founding member of the Impressionists and prominently featured in 7 of their 8 exhibitions alongside Monet, Renoir, Degas, and Manet. But why do we know so little about Morisot's art compared to what we know about the other artists? Who is this woman who's rumored to have had an affair with Edouard Manet? And did Morisot inspire Claude Monet to paint the Water Lilies? Welcome to Art Vault. Morisot was born into an upper-middle-class family, but, unlike her male peers, she was not allowed to study at l'École des Beaux-Arts, a renowned fine arts school in France that would only allow female students acceptance in 1897. Fortunately, Morisot's parents believed in her and supported her and her sister Emmit to pursue a career in art. They built their daughters an art studio, and the girls would frequent and study the old masters at the Louvre. They were schooled under the private tutelage of Camille Corot, a respected landscape painter who taught them both plein air painting, the act of painting outdoors, what would become a cornerstone of Impressionism. In 1868, her artistic style catapulted aesthetically when she met fellow artist Edouard Manet. Manet would often use Morisot as a model for his paintings, like The Balcony, in which she gazes forward, a vision in a white dress. Manet hung 3 of her works in his bedroom. It was often speculated that both artists had an affair, but Manet was married, so Morisot eventually married Edouard's brother, Eugene, in 1874. Morisot kept her maiden name, which was unheard of at the time. Eugene was Morisot's biggest supporter, so much so, he decided to leave his job with the French Ministry of Justice and become a stay-at-home husband to take care of their only daughter, Julie. Morisot, possibly out of gratitude, made Eugene the only male subject in all of her paintings. Now, why was Berthe Morisot revolutionary? 1, the choice of subject, and 2, the technique with which she painted. As a woman, Morisot could access the private moments of the women around her and painted them at every stage of their life. Contemporary audiences might take this point of view for granted, but what we don't take into consideration is that this perspective had never been seen, let alone from a female artist's point of view, and was captured out of necessity. Morisot painted her female counterparts because she was excluded from other sites of leisure around Paris due to the public's attitude towards women at the time. Morisot could not paint outside without a male chaperone. It was thought to be improper. Even Morisot embarking on a career as an artist was frowned upon by general societal standards. Morisot was conscious of this her whole life. She didn't even have a room to call her studio. She painted in her closet to not disrupt the decor of her home. George Moore said of Morisot, "Her paintings are the only paintings by a woman that could not be destroyed without leaving a gap in the history of art." Morisot's work was remarkable, not just for the emotional connection she shared with the women in her paintings, or for the highly feminine qualities that many critics would associate with her art, but also because of some pretty radical painting techniques she applied to her works, or didn't. Sometimes Morisot didn't even bother to cover parts of the canvas, intentionally leaving areas exposed. While artists previously blended and disguised their brushstrokes to conceal any trace of the painter, Morisot was proudly showing that there is, in fact, an artist behind this work. This contrast forces the viewer to focus on the subject. This contrast between the empty canvas and the subject can be seen in Young Girl with a Vase, her self-portrait, Jeune Fille au Manteau Vert, and Reclining Woman in Gray. In true Impressionist style, the brushstrokes are short, broken, unblended, and loose, depicting spontaneity and barely conveying form. She would paint a mouth, eyes, and a nose with a single stroke. Apparently, if you look at the painting in person, when the light hits the brushstrokes, they still seem wet. Morisot, more than any of her contemporaries, was skilled in embodying her female subjects with selfhood. Unlike Degas' ballerinas or Manet's nudes, the reclining woman in gray and many of Morisot's women are free of objectification. There is a feeling of intimacy here, of course, but none of the woman's agency. The soft, airy brushstrokes in complementary hues of pink, white, blue, gray, and lilac create a composition that resembles a fleeting moment of peace, as if each brushstroke can fly away in an instant and leave behind a blank, raw canvas, which in fact is seen in the upper right. This was no accident, but a deliberate choice made by Morisot. This contrast forces the viewer to focus on the subject. We're given no other choice than to concentrate our attention, engaging us to finish the painting in our own minds. Now, one of the best-kept secrets in art history. We've lost track of the original artwork signed by Morisot, but based on the limited writings that are available, it was a white water lily suggested by a few pencil strokes. Morisot had sketched this to illuminate a prose poem by her great friend Stéphane Mallarmé, who was also a friend of Monet, and it's known that Morisot and Monet both had the opportunity to contemplate a copy. Mallarmé would often recount how much this drawing by Morisot had captivated Monet, and history teaches us that Monet's infatuation with water lilies would never go away. But Morisot unfortunately passed away before Monet could begin his first series of water lilies. During the final years of her life, her focus shifted to scenes of introspection, and the fast brushstrokes that had characterized her work for years came back into focus. In the portrait, Julie Dreaming, a stark contrast to Morisot's reclining woman in gray, her red-headed teenage daughter Julie looks forward with a sullen expression. Her face shines against continuous, unbroken green and amber brushstrokes. We can only dream of what the next evolution of Morisot's work would be. She died of pneumonia at age 54, the height of her promise. Morisot carefully balanced the fine line between her identity as an upper-middle-class woman and a painter. It led her to devalue her own work. Of the 850 pieces she produced during her lifetime, she destroyed many of her pieces that were created before 1869, a decade of work, and only sold about 30 pieces. Today, it's important to not only retroactively celebrate her artwork, but also to celebrate her revolutionary spirit, which at times foretells abstraction. At the debut of her first solo show in 1892, Morisot wrote, "Truly, we are worth something through a feeling, an intention, a vision, which is more delicate than that of men, and if by good luck we are not impeded by affection, pedantry, and over-refinement, we shall be able to do a great deal." And that Berthe Morisot has truly accomplished. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe,